Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here. And today I'm going to be showing you an updated version of this bead that I made roughly a year and a half ago. So this is originally from my Pills and Coffee polymer clay silkscreen veneer tutorial, and I did another pendant on that tutorial, and this I did with some of the extra veneer that I did in that tutorial. I never did a tutorial on how to make it. I was not quite happy on how I did it. I'm not happy quite with the dome. So today I'm going to be showing you a new, improved, updated version of this because you all really liked this design. So what you're going to need to start is a piece of Primo white polymer clay rolled out to about 2 millimeters thick, and I'm using roughly probably about 3/4 of a block of Primo, roughly. Roll out however much you want for your project. Okay, then I'm also going to be using some alcohol inks, and I'm going to be using these ones, so you can see the names there. And I'm also wearing finger cots because we're going to be working with Swelligant, and I don't particularly want to get that on my fingers. And also, bonus, we're going to be working with alcohol ink, so I don't really want to get those on my fingers. That one's turquoise. Okay, then you're also going to need some sort of an alcohol ink dabber. I got this wonderful one from Linda's Art Spot. I'll provide a link to that supplier in the links below. I actually use this a lot now that I have it. And that is what we're going to need to start. So first, before you do anything, trim away any scrappy bits that you have on your piece of polymer clay, because you're not going to be able to use those anyway, so you might as well be able to roll them back into a piece of white later on. So just trim those up. Okay, then I'm going to open up the alcohol ink bottles. Make sure you open them away from your veneer because they're going to have crumbly bits around the edge, and you will get that on your veneer if you're not careful. Okay, and I'm just going to drop that onto here. And this is the sailboat blue, which is my favourite colour. Okay, and I'm just going to dab that around. And we don't want a heavy coat of it, we just want a light coat. Okay, then I'm going to move on to the aquarium, I do believe is what it's called. And I'll just open that away. And that one will also drop a few droplets on. And it will reactivate the sailboat, so whichever colour you want to be dominant you should put on first. Okay, and we'll just dab that around. Okay, and I might actually not end up using the stone washed. I think I'm probably going to skip that one. And keep in mind you can do any colours you want, however blue is what is going to work best with this project. But you can change up the colours of the Swelligant as well, so play around with this and have fun. Okay, and that's just going to add an extra green tone. Okay, and notice that I am going to leave some white. A little bit, but some white. I don't want huge glaring areas though, I just want a little bit of white. Right, now this needs to just dry for a moment. It won't take a second. What we can do to speed it up is you can use a hairdryer quickly to just dry it. That will get it dry very quickly. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be talking about the Swelligant that we're going to be using. And keep in mind, you can also, the Swelligant works really well because you're going to have these multi-tone sections. But if you don't have Swelligant, you can use a light green paint and maybe a little bit of silver in there as well, and you will achieve a similar effect. It won't be nearly as cool though. Anyway, we're going to be using copper, brass and silver. And the patina that we're going to be using is this one over here. Now what I've done with the patina ahead of time is I've taken it and I've put it into this old alcohol spray bottle that I have, because then I get a nice fine mist over my veneer and not these big drops that I used to get. So while we've been talking, our veneer basically has finished drying. And what you can do just to make sure that it is completely dry is you can just take a piece of plain printing paper, and I'm using the clean side. I like to reuse them. Just rub it down and just gently remove, and that will remove any excess alcohol ink you have. And you can see here it basically is dry. Okay, now I do have a little spot there that is not completely flat. If you have that in your veneer, you want to flatten that out, because otherwise your silk screening might have a little bit of issues. So I'm just going to use another piece of paper because I've got finger cuts on, and I'm just going to burnish round about that area so that we flatten it out. Because you'll get leakage under your silk screen if you don't flatten out that spot. So let's see, is that flat? Yes. Good. Alright, now this is definitely dry. Okay, so we're going to be using a silk screen. Keep in mind, if you don't have a silk screen, you can also use a stencil. But I really want to use Helen Braille's nice, fine Night Wind silk screen. This is what I used originally for this project. Let me just take that out. And here is that silk screen. It looks really, really nice. I'm just going to lay that down. Okay, and now just to make sure that it is properly stuck down, I'm just going to take a piece of paper and I'm just going to gently burnish it. I'm not doing this too hard, I'm just making sure that it's stuck onto the clay enough that it's not going to have any leaks. Don't burnish too hard because you don't want that clay coming up into the fine mesh. You just want it nicely stuck down there. Right, so now we're ready to play. Now keep in mind this part needs to be done fairly quickly because it will dry in the silk screen quickly. So you want to have a bucket of nice kind of just above lukewarm water off to the side, ready to dump your silk screen in. You want to have your patina ready in the spray bottle. You want to have your swelligans all open. So I'm just going to go quickly open all of those because we have to move fast with this due to it being a silk screen. If it is a stencil, you can take your time with that. But a silk screen, because it's so fine and delicate, we have to move fairly quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tip a bit out onto the side because some of them are a little bit old. I actually have some bottles here that are about 2 years old. Oh, not 2 years, 3 years old. So they're a little bit thick. They formed a little bit of a skin on top. There we go. So that's a bit of the brass. And the reason we have to move fast, whoops, as well, that's fine. If it mixes up together, we're going to be putting it on here anyway. And that one needs a little mix up quickly. So I'll quickly mix that one up. There we go. Okay, so I've just quickly mixed up that silver. And this is why I say pour it on the tile, because if you do have little accidents like this, it's not going to cause too much trouble. Okay, so now we'll just take that and I'm just going to quickly mix that copper together and I'm just going to brush them on. And I'm going to start with the brass and the copper, and I've kind of mixed them together, and that's why I'm not so worried that they kind of blended together. You don't have to worry about that, because I kind of want them both on here. And I'm laying down a fairly thick coat, and this is both because it keeps the swelligan wet for a while, and also because, well, it means that it's not going to dry in the silk screen while we're still putting the silver on. So put on a fairly thick coat, about 0.5 millimeter thick, I would say. Make sure you get everywhere. Right, then I'm just going to take a tiny amount of silver and just dab it on there. And the silver is supposed to be more like an accent. I don't want a huge amount of silver because the silver doesn't really react with the patina. So it's a little bit on the boring side compared to the others. So just add a tiny amount. And when you add it, make sure you tap it around so that it's mixing with the other swelligant. Now I'm going to lift that up very quickly and I'm going to put this into a bowl of water. Okay, so that's in the bowl of water. I quickly rinsed it out. Now we're going to take our patina while this is still wet and we're going to give it a spray. And I want a fairly large spray. Just making sure I'm getting everywhere. Okay, and you can already see that we're starting to get some green tones. It also interacts with the alcohol ink a little bit, I find, which is really cool. So now you want to leave that for roughly around 2 to 3 hours. Don't mess with it, don't play with it, just leave it and it will look really nice. You can see we had a little spill over here. That's fine, that's why I've made a fairly large veneer, because sometimes you do get spills. Okay, so I'd recommend just wiping up around here, cleaning up a little bit, going and making lunch maybe, or supper, depending on when you're doing this, and come back and you'll see that it looks really cool. Okay, so I've just set it aside to dry, and here is what it looks like now that we're finished. And you can see that looks quite striking and really pretty. And what actually is the idea behind this tutorial is it's kind of supposed to represent almost like palm leaves hanging over water. So you want that beautiful green colour. So now I've just got a plain piece of printing paper and I'm just using it to gently burnish over the swelligant, just to press it down onto the clay, which will give it a sturdier finish later on. Now I find that once you've baked the swelligant onto the clay, you don't generally need a sealant. We will probably use a sealant, but I find that it generally works out pretty strong. Just make sure to burnish it and you can see it gets rid of any excess bits and pieces. Right, so now we are ready to start forming our pendant. Okay, so I've rolled out a piece of pearl white, which is going to be our backing, and this has been rolled out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine. Now I want you to take any texture you want. I'm using this denim roller that I have. You can get it on my Etsy shop, Jessama Design, but keep in mind you can use any texture you want. I'm just going to stand up and roll this because I want to get a nice deep texture. And I like it, and I've used this one mainly because it kind of reminds me of, it has similar swirls to the ones in our project. And you can see it gives a shallow but decent sharp texture. So put that to the side, we will use that in a little while. Now we're going to take this and we're going to roll it through our pasta machine a few times just to thin it out a little bit. So this is 2mm thick. I'm going to take it down one setting, like so. That's thinned it out to probably about 1.8mm thick. Taking it down one more. Now it is about I'd say it's probably around 1.5 now, just about. Okay, you can see we're getting some very slight crackles. I want to be careful not to do it too much. I'm going to take it down just one more so that it is 1mm thick. There we are. Okay. And now that has put a little bit of stress on the clay because swelligant does not like to expand typically or crackle. So I'm just going to take it now and I'm just going to give it a very quick burnish, like so. And that will just burnish everything down again. You can see it just takes off a little bit of the excess. But now we've got these crackles, which is a really nice addition to the clay. And it also thins out the alcohol ink a little bit. I didn't want it to be too bright against the green. So by doing what I did, it does thin out the alcohol ink a bit. And it's now thin and flexible enough to work with. So now I'm taking my donut cutter. I'll provide a link to the specific donut cutter. It is the largest one in the listing. And I'm going to place that face down. And we're going to take this, and I want to take out a piece just about here. I've noticed that there is a little imperfection here that I want to just gently get rid of. Okay. If you notice imperfections, get rid of them once raw. So much easier. Okay. Alright, so I do want to take a piece around about here. So I'm just going to take this, and I've dropped that down inside there, and then what I want you to do is I want you to start pressing. And you should be able to do this. If the clay does crack, it might be a little cold. One way to get it to work with you a bit better is to take a heat gun or a hairdryer and just warm it up a bit. So this is a little bit, it's not flexing as much as I would like it to, so I'm just going to use a heat gun on it for maybe around a minute or two, not to cure it, but just to soften it up a bit with warmth. You can use a hairdryer. Okay, and that should have warmed it up a bit. Now I'm just going to take this, and I'm actually going to cut out around it so we don't have a whole bunch of veneer flopping around in the way. Okay, and let's give this another try. Okay, so I'm just going to place that down, and I'm actually now going to heat it again. And that will just warm it up some more, which means that we can flex it in. This is a little challenging. Okay. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of extra white clay, and I'm going to roll out a just a log, like so. And I don't want it to be too thick. I want it to kind of go around here. Okay. Then I'm just going to press it down, like so. Just press along it like so, and then we'll use that in just a moment. Now this is giving me a lot of trouble with the cracking, so I have to just burnish it one more time because it's got a crack in it. So if you have a crack, instead of forcing it to carry on, make sure you burnish it on both sides, and this will assist in getting rid of that little crack. Like so. Okay. And there we are, that crack should be just about gone. So there's that crack, so I'm just going to smooth over that section. Okay. Alright, now I'm just going to join this piece together. I'm just going to stretch it out maybe a little bit. I'm going to grab this and place that in the middle, and I want it to have a kind of a rounded square shape, so I'll just press against these edges to help assist it in that shape. So just mould it roughly into the right shape. You don't have to get it perfect, but it does help. Okay, and that's just about right. Okay, and then dip this in like so. Grab that, place that inside, and you can use that to create an even larger dip. And let me just look at this from the front. Yeah, that's what we're starting to get. Good. Okay, and I want a fairly tall dip. Okay, there we are. Now grab your leftover clay, oh not leftover clay, your scrap sheet polymer clay. Place that over the top and flip it up so it's like a sandwich. Then check if you're somewhat happy with it. Okay, so the dome wasn't quite high enough, so I've just taken it off again and I'm reinserting it here and I'm dipping it inside that cutter some more. Like so, let me just check that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, and I might skip this for a moment and see if I don't need it. If I can capture enough air in there. And that looks pretty good. Okay, then press down and you are now trapping air inside here. So if you're having a lot of trouble with the air, you can insert this, but generally if you don't have to have that, that's always good. So there we are. Just make sure you've pressed that properly. And there we are, we should have a nice pendant. Like that. And let me just grab something so that I can take that middle out. Okay. And before I take the middle out, I might actually just quickly trim around these edges where we have a little bit of the swelligant. Because the swelligant sometimes gets dragged by the cutter a little bit because it doesn't really like being cut. So you might need to just gently trim those edges. Okay, very carefully gonna lift this out. There we are. And then lift this straight up. You can see the texture remains on the back. I'm just going to very gently smooth. I don't want you messing with it too much. You need to get it clean, but don't mess with it so much that you're going to get a leak as far as the air goes. So when trimming, I am doing a very light trim because I would prefer to sand away most of it later on once we have baked the clay into its shape. Okay, so I'm just going to give a very light trim. So if we cut too deep, we can cut into that air pocket that is holding that dome. Okay, rid of all of that. Okay, and I like it a lot like that. I want to just check something very quickly regarding a button to see how that will fit, because I do have a plan. See, does that fit? Yeah, that does fit quite nicely. Right, so that's what I'm going to be using later on, but that's for a later date. For now, what I want to do is I want to put this straight into the oven as it is, and when you're baking this, you will obviously want to have this side facing up, and then as the air heats up, this will rise and it will puff up. Now the thing is, if you're really good at this, or you get really good at this, make sure that you don't make this dome too high, because you can get it can pop by accident. So what I do like to do is I like to just go into the side here, and I just like to make a very small incision, just to give that air a place to go if it really needs to go somewhere. I don't make a huge incision, but it means that instead of it popping out of the front, it's going to just leak out of the side over here. So just make a very gentle incision. Okay, so now I'm going to bake this for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and I will show you how to attach that button later on once this is properly baked. Okay, so it is out of the oven, and this is what it looks like. So now what we want to do is we want to clean up these sides. We want to put a smear around them so that they're nice and smooth. So just go and scrape against them. A lot of the time you'll be able to just pick off any bits with your fingernail, like so. And just do the same inside here, check that. Okay, and now we will be able to do a smear. Okay, so I've got some pearl white here. And just roll that into a log, and just make sure it's nice and warm first. And then just smear that along the edge of your pendant. And that should give a nice consistent colour along your edge. And just repeat along the other edges. Just take it and drag. Okay, and then I just gently smooth out any imperfections. And so you can see those edges versus those edges. Much better. Okay, and here is how it should turn out. And you also want to do the same along the inside band, so you can see that. So it looks much better. Now, for those of you who are going to find this next bit a challenge, feel free to leave this as it is and just bake it, and just suspend this as it is, as it looks really nice as is. But I think it would look nicer if it had a little copper button. So I've got a bit of tape here. I'm going to pop that onto the back and smooth that down. You want a thorough seal. Then I'm just going to quickly trim this a little. Actually, no, we won't trim it. Now I want you to bring over some liquid clay. Okay, and I'm going to be using translucent and pearl white liquid clay. So I'm just going to open up that pearl white, and we're going to pop a bit in here. And that's nice and thick, so I just need to spread that around. Just very gently get it to the edges. Like so. Okay, and I'm just doing this, it's a little slow. I would go with the Sculpey Pearl White. You could go with another brand if you want, but I find that it's nice and thick, so it won't break through that tape barrier that we have, which is quite important. We don't really want it breaking through. Okay, now let me just pop this in and see, and get that just lined up into the right spot. I do apologise for the dog. Okay, then I'm going to be using some Sculpey Translucent, now that this is in the right spot, and I'm going to just pour it on here. And let me see, on the back here I need to pour just a touch more liquid clay here. And the translucent is a lot more, is a lot thinner. so that will spread pretty easily. So I like to do a layer of translucent pearl first, and then add the translucent. And the reason I'm putting the pearl into is so that we don't have a transparent backing, we have a pearl white backing, so that matches with the back and everything. Okay, then I'm going to grab this, pop that into the right spot. This is a little tricky. Remember, if you make a mistake, you can always just take off the tape and rinse off the pendant. And then I just want to add a little bit more liquid clay. I don't want it so much that it's going to disrupt the pattern on the copper, so I'm going to gently scrape off a little bit, because I don't want a big thick layer on the copper button. So just take off these little bits, I don't want a whole lot in there. Okay, and I can see that it's got on the back. All I want is so that it's I've got some on top here, and then I've got some on the back. That way it will bond together. Okay, there we are. Alright, so then I'm going to put this in the oven as it is for another hour at Primo's recommended temperature. Okay, and here it is out of the oven, and you can see that you can barely see the translucent liquid clay around the edges, and so it looks almost like just a light shadow, and you can't see the liquid clay on top. So let me just use this to point to you. So you can't see the liquid clay on top here, but if you direct it in just the right direction, you know what you're looking for, you can see that there's a very light coat inside these, whereas over here you can press, whereas these ones, they have something on it, which means that this is going to be nice and secure. Okay, so now if we look at the back, you can see there is a little air bubble, and this will come off nice and easy, no problem whatsoever. And so you want to just take care of that air bubble. So all we're going to do is we're just going to grab some pearl white. I'm just gently going to insert it into there. Just slowly filling that up. And just poke it in to make sure that that air bubble gets filled up properly. Okay, and then I'll just scrape off any excess there is. I might just take a little bit more and insert once I've just checked that there is no air bubble. Alright, so now you then bake that for about 15 minutes at Primo's recommended temperature, and that will just fill in the back and mean that it is ready for use. And you can see the sides are also nice and done. All we need to do is seal it with a matte finish and we'll be ready to go. And there we are. Now it's finished. You can see that's filled in that back spot very nicely. So now I am just going to grab some Renaissance wax, and actually before we do that I want to just think about how we are going to string this, because we could either drill a hole or we could put a bail on the back, so I just need to think about that quickly. Okay, so I've thought about how I want to string it, and so what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this really pretty copper bail that I have, and I think it's going to look nice suspended from there. But what we need to do is we need to drill, and now I'm going to do this before I start messing around with the before I start putting the Renaissance wax on. Okay, so I'm just going to make an incision here. Just drill. I like to start drilling down, and then I will drill along. this side. Start drilling here. And then drill along. Until the two sides meet. There we are. Now I'm just going to quickly clean that out. Okay. Then I'm just going to grab a pin. Just straighten that section out. Like so. And thread that through. Okay, and I'm not sure if this is going to be long enough. Let me see if it is. Okay, I'm not sure if this one is long enough. Let me just see if I have something longer. Okay, so none of my copper wire fits, and that's fine. So I'm just going to grab some of this antiqued wire that I have, and what I did was I took some swelligant, I coated it in the swelligant, very light coat, and I patinaed it, and I've let it sit around for maybe about a month or so, and you get this really cool greenish tint. So you guys can play with that if you want, or you can use antiqued copper wire. Okay, and I'm just going and I'm straightening it. Then I will make a loop on the one end. Okay. And then I don't need it to be quite this long. I'm just going to grab this end and trim. There we go. Okay, and then just straighten it a bit more so that it can fit through the hole. Okay, and then I'll just push it through. There we are. Okay, and I'm just going to bring it up. It might be a little too much. I need it to be about this distance. Okay. Then bring this up. I just want to press that right up against there, and then I want to do a loop. I'll just trim that. Press that in. And there we've got a secure way to attach our bail. So now I'm going to just open that up. And at this point we can change it if you're not liking it. I'm just going to press on that. And then rotate. And let's see how that looks. And okay, so I've got a different idea. I didn't really like how that came out, so let's try something different. I'm going to go in from the top directly, and then I'm going to make a drill hole. So, okay, going to grab a little eye pin, one of these, and I should be able to insert that down. I'm not going to have all of that space though, so let me just bend that. Okay, and I'm just going to bend this pin like so. Let's see if I can insert it. There we are, and push that all the way down. Okay, now before I do anything, I'm just going to grab this and get rid of that. And I thought I would show you my experimenting because I want you to see how I get to my stringing ideas. It's not a straightforward process most of the time. Alright, so now I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to open it and just test to see if this goes on nicely or if I need to make a bigger loop. You know, that fits quite nicely, so that will hold it in place. And now just take a moment, see if you like it, maybe move it around if you need to, and I do like that. Alright, so next step then, now that we do like it, is I'm going to keep this in here so that it's nice and stuck. We've got these holes over here that I want to fix up. And all we're going to do is we just need some pearl white clay, smooth, very easy and a very quick way to fix holes. And that's a great way to fix any holes that you've made by accident or on purpose that you're just not happy with and don't want to be there. So just keep that in mind. It's a great little tip. I do use it fairly often. And just make sure you smooth it over. Okay, and there we are, we've gotten rid of those holes. Now the last step will be to grab a little bit of, not pearl white, I'm going to be using translucent, some translucent liquid Sculpey. I'm just going to grab that and I am going to paint it around this head pin loop because I want it to stick to the clay and it will also fill in that hole, meaning that it's going to be quite hard to get that loop out if someone ever wanted to get it out. So you'd have to really tug on this and be quite abusive to it to actually get it out. Okay, and then I'll probably put that in the oven for about 15 minutes at Primo's recommended temperature. Just make sure that you've got enough on there. Okay, then just go pop that in the oven at Primo's recommended temperature for 15 minutes. Okay, and here it is out of the oven. So now all that is left is to just apply a little bit of Renaissance wax to seal it, and we will use a rubber cord to finish it off. Or at least I think we'll use a rubber cord. I'll have a look. So I've just got a bit of Renaissance wax here. I'm just going to gently rub that on. And I'm not getting it on the button. You don't want the wax on the button, you don't need it there. You can put it on the button if you want, it's up to you. But I find you don't really need it. And I decided not to use a matte varnish because matte varnishes, if you didn't know already, they can actually dull the colour of your piece. So unless your piece is too bright or you are okay with it being dulled a little bit, don't use matte varnish. Okay, there we are. And now I'm just going to grab a buffing wheel and give it a very, very light buff. There we go. And it should give it a nice light sheen. I put the buffing wheel on a rather low temperature, on a rather low speed setting, so it doesn't give me too much of a shine, but it does give it this nice sheen. Okay, so next we are going to grab a rubber cord, and let's see. How does that look? I'm pretty happy with that, so we will use that. And you can get these rubber cords off of my Etsy shop, Jessama Design. So be sure to check that out. And I'm just got to force it through this bail here. It can be a little tricky. There we are. Now keep in mind, this is a design that you can follow and reproduce to create jewellery. I have no problem with you reproducing the design exactly, but also please do feel free to mess around with the design and create your own pieces, because this is a very flexible technique, and I'm sure that you guys will come up with something really cool. So that is basically it for this tutorial. I really did enjoy it, and let me just bring over that other old piece quickly. And here it is. So you can see from this there to this looks very different, and I think this is much more professional. The dome is so much better. I really love this puffy sort of a dome that you can get by creating a little air bubble inside of your piece, and I feel like the button is set better. This one you can actually pop out because I did not put liquid clay in it. I'm not sure if I can pop this one out. Let me show you. No, I can't pop this one out, but I had a few in this design pop out when I was busy doing it, so applying that liquid clay really sets it in nicely. And I prefer the backing and the sides as well, so you can see the sides and you can see the backing. And this actually might be an excellent spot if you had a stamp of your if you were going to be selling your jewellery. This would be a great spot to put your little logo. So if I was going to sell this is where I would put my little Jessama Design logo. So that's something to think about as well. So anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I certainly did. If you would like more tutorials like this, please do subscribe, like and comment on the video, as that is really helpful to me. Also, if you would like updates, early pictures and competitions, please do join my Facebook group on Facebook, Jessama Tutorials Polymer Clay Community. I will have a link to that in the description below the video. And if you would like to support this channel and continue having multiple videos a week, please do consider either becoming a patron. I'll have a link to that in the description below. You will get multiple videos a month on Patreon, so please do check that out. There's lots of rewards there. Or you can visit my Etsy shop at Jessama Design. I have a bunch of different tools on there, such as this rubber cord and also the cutter that I used in this tutorial. So please do consider checking that out as well, as that helps support this channel and keeps it posting multiple tutorials every single week. And so I do hope that you'll comment, ask questions if you have any, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.